The next one.
Mr. Chairman, can I take my two cards together?
No. Separately. Do your card first.
One after another. What I meant is, I can continue with my following card.
Yes, you can take both.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Foreign Minister Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan recently responded to questions on the situation in Myanmar following the coup by the Tatmadaw. He stated an escalation of the situation will have serious consequences for both Myanmar and the region. Indeed, reports indicate that developments remain highly fluid, contrary to hopes for greater stability. The death toll of protesters being killed by security forces has reportedly been increasing, and yesterday it was reported that at least 18 have been killed. This is disconcerting. Dr. Balakrishnan, in his earlier responses, has indicated a need for consensus to hold an ASEAN foreign ministers meeting on the Myanmar situation. Given the continued uncertainty and tenuousness of developments, will the foreign minister provide an update on Singapore's position on the crisis? Will he also inform the House of Singapore's role in facilitating the emergence of a consensus for a meeting, if there is one, and what we hope can be achieved from this meeting? ASEAN's ability to demonstrate initiative on the Myanmar issue may be key. We speak repeatedly about ASEAN unity and centrality, but that centrality only matters if it is meaningful and can make a difference. This is important because an effective ASEAN helps members like Singapore maintain our autonomy and a platform to make our voices heard. Singapore is invested in ASEAN's success, so it is imperative for the government to bring Singaporeans on board with what it is doing to support ASEAN's ability to play a practical and positive role when faced with the unfolding situation in Myanmar. Political instability in the region, even away from Singapore, can have an impact for us here. Further, Southeast Asia is also a focal point of intensifying competition between the US and China, and any inability by ASEAN to address such inability could spur further contestation among major powers in our region. This may possibly cause severe and even irreversible divisions in ASEAN in ways that parallel the recent crisis within the Pacific Islands Forum. Calls in Myanmar for the boycotting of Singapore firms began after Dr. Balakrishnan's early answer to the House, which included a line on separating business and politics. Our government's views notwithstanding, perceptions in Myanmar and elsewhere in the world may differ, so this has to be sensitively managed. Finally, I would like to ask what is being done to reach Singaporeans who may be stranded in Singapore but are unable to contact the embassy in the event of any connectivity issue. Being in a position to extend support may be especially critical in the event of a further escalation of violence and instability. Singaporeans in Myanmar should know of the contingency plans for extraction should the need arise. My next card. Singapore's foreign policy towards the US and China has been one where we have reiterated that we do not wish to choose sides and want to retain the ability to make choices for ourselves. Our Prime Minister have even implored both Beijing and Washington to stabilize the US-China relationship and focus on building constructive ties. This position rests on a view that many areas of significant overlap in interests exist between the US and China and will continue to exist, if not expand. But this does seem at odds with recent global developments. Mr. Chairman, I think it is clear that the world has entered a new phase of renewed major power rivalry between US and China. Many are now familiar with US President Joe Biden's foreseeing extreme competition in US-China relations and General Secretary Xi Jinping's framing of a wide range of issues as PRC core interests that the US should respect. A recent South China Morning Post editorial even noted that disputes between China and the US appear unavoidable. Realistically, no amount of pleading or reasoning from Singapore is ultimately going to change minds in either Washington or Beijing. Any belief that a Kumbaya moment will come at any time soon may be optimistic but potentially naive. As a smaller actor, Singapore will probably do well to be prepared for the worst that may yet to come. Given the current trajectory in US-China relations and the very real possibility of a more tense environment, several key questions loom large with Singapore. I would like to ask the Minister to spend some time in laying out Singapore's strategic vision to deal with the potential challenges that lie ahead. First, I would like to ask how Singapore's autonomy and freedom of action can be protected under the more contentious circumstances that we find ourselves in today. Second, how will Singapore maintain positive and robust ties with the two majors competing against one another without getting drawn unnecessarily into the friction and risk being ground up in the process? Third, how does Singapore avoid one party perceiving our efforts to stand for our own interests as being detrimental to theirs and earning suspicion for siding with their rival? Let me be clear. I'm not asking for operational details. I'm asking these questions because Singaporeans need to understand and buy into the government's strategic vision on these aspects of our foreign and even security policies and the guiding principles thereto for us to have any chance at success in navigating these very tricky waters. Thank you.